Firefighters declined to extinguish the flames when they discovered what lay within. Prepared to be shocked, Danielle resided in a tiny bungalow at the far end of Hazelwood Street, or at least, that was the perception. A well-kept yard and a car parked out front hinted at a comfortable life, but Elijah, her amiable neighbor across the street, noticed something unusual. Danielle often spent her nights sleeping in her car, even though the lights in her house stayed off. She always appeared guarded whenever he inquired about it. At dawn on a chilly morning, Elijah noticed Danielle searching for something on the passenger seat of her sedan. She appeared visibly upset. Concerned, he rushed over. "Danielle, is everything okay?" he asked softly. She turned away, tears glistening in her eyes. "I've lost something very precious to me, but it's inside that house," she replied, pointing at the darkened windows. Elijah glanced at the house. The curtains were always drawn, and the exterior was unkempt, with chipped paint and overgrown bushes. He asked quietly, "What's stopping you from going in?" Danielle swallowed hard. "It's not fit to live in. I can't bear it." She sighed deeply. "There's an old photograph of my parents that I would give anything to find, but I'm afraid to step inside." Elijah offered to help, feeling the heavy weight in his heart for her. Together, they slowly approached her front door. Even before entering, a damp smell seeped through the cracked threshold. Elijah flipped on his phone's flashlight and surveyed the hall. Piles of boxes, tattered newspapers, and heaps of clothes cluttered the floor. Spoiled food containers and broken furniture crammed every corner, and mold stained the walls, giving off a rank odor. Danielle stood by the doorway, trembling. "I'm sorry it's like this," she whispered. Elijah ventured deeper, carefully climbing over a mound of old magazines. Eventually, he found a dusty dresser with an unsealed box on top. Inside, after rummaging through letters and a worn notebook, he pulled out a small envelope containing an aged photograph. The corners were curled, but the image of two smiling parents was still clear. Clutching the photo, Elijah made his way back to Danielle. She gazed at it in awe, relief mingling with tears. "Thank you," she said, her voice quivering. "I never thought I'd see this again." Afterward, Elijah gently suggested, "Danielle, your house is unsafe. The mold, the clutter. It's dangerous." Danielle nodded, pale. "I know. I just never had the strength to tackle it after my husband died." Everything spiraled. At Elijah's urging, Danielle agreed to call professionals to inspect the property. When the specialist arrived, he delivered grim news. The mold infestation was severe, penetrating the walls and the roof. Repairing it would cost a fortune, he said. "Frankly, this house should be demolished for health and safety. Otherwise, it can contaminate nearby areas." Stunned, Danielle felt her hope collapsing. Though she had rarely entered the house in years, it remained the place she once called home. "Demolish it," she murmured. She realized it needed to happen before mold spores spread to neighbors. Local authorities decided on a controlled burn, an approach occasionally used when a property is beyond saving. Firefighters arrived not to extinguish flames, but to manage a plant and fire to ensure safety. That's what truly shocked Elijah. These firefighters, known for rushing to put out fires, would instead stand by as the house burned. On the day of the burn, a small crowd formed at the edge of Danielle's yard, curious about the unusual scene. Under the fire chief's direction, personal possessions deemed salvageable were cleared from the house first, but the mold was so extensive that almost nothing survived except a few photographs and a small trinket. Elijah, alongside volunteers, helped pack these items into Danielle's car. She stood nearby, tears welling. "It hurts, but I know it's for the best." One by one, firefighters carried out moldy chairs, water-damaged books, and rotted cabinets. When Elijah noticed something strange, he realized no one had retrieved any belongings from a side room at the back of the house. He remembered a locked door he had passed, jammed behind boxes. Elijah watched as the firefighters continued removing large pieces of junk from other parts of the home, ignoring that corner. Then the burn prep began, and the fire chief signaled to start. Elijah approached Danielle with concern. "What about that last room? Didn't they check it?" She gave a haunted look. "That's where my husband spent his final days," she said quietly. "I never cleared it out. I couldn't bear it." Within moments, a small flame was lit at designated points inside the house. Thick smoke curled into the sky as the building began to burn. The firefighters formed a perimeter, monitoring the fire's progress to prevent it from spreading. Danielle and Elijah stood side by side, watching smoke and embers devour the front porch, then the living room. Tears slid down Danielle's cheeks. We built that house when we were married. Thought we'd retire there together. Now it ends like this, she whispered, a soft goodbye. Soon, the fire roared, swallowing mold-infested drywall, blackened furniture, and memories once precious. The firefighters refused to spray water onto the flames, for their orders were clear: let the structure burn to completion. The dark smoke billowed upward, a stark testament to years of neglect and hidden pain. By evening, only smoldering rubble remained. The firefighters stayed vigilant, dousing stray sparks with quick bursts of water, preventing them from drifting to neighboring properties. As the final embers died, the entire block seemed to release a collective sigh. But Elijah couldn't shake the feeling that something was unresolved. "Where will you go now, Danielle?" he asked. She peered into the charred wreckage. "I've been living in my car for so long I forgot what a home should feel like, but I can't keep sleeping there. It's no way to live." Her voice trembled, the question of where heavy in the cool air. Elijah placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone. Let's figure this out." Neighbors who had seen Elijah's care for Danielle offered suggestions. One friend recalled a nearby senior community with vacant apartments. Another, touched by Danielle's plight, donated funds for her initial rent. The warmth of their support spread quickly. Within a week, she was settled into a modest but bright one-bedroom unit at a friendly senior complex. Elijah helped unpack the few belongings not contaminated by mold. The cherished photograph of her parents stood in a small silver frame by her bed. "You'll be safe here," he assured her. "No more car seat for pillows." At first, Danielle struggled with the heartbreak of losing her husband's memory-laden house. She confided to Elijah, "Part of me feels guilt for letting it burn, but I also know it was poison inside." He reminded her that letting go sometimes paves the way for healing. Gradually, the new routine improved her spirit. She strolled around the complex gardens, chatted with fellow retirees, and started eating regular, nutritious meals. Without the stress of her decaying house, her health rebounded. She laughed for the first time in years, rediscovering joy in little things: a crisp morning breeze, a neighbor's story, a puzzle finished in the community lounge. Her old sit-in, once a makeshift bedroom, now served merely as a car. For the first time, she felt genuine relief turning off the ignition each night, knowing a bed awaited her inside her apartment. She no longer worried about mold or rummaging in the backseat. News of the controlled burn soon faded from local gossip, but many remembered the unusual call-out where firefighters refused to extinguish the flames. The truth behind it was more poignant: a house beyond saving, harboring hidden sorrow. The neighborly kindness that followed was equally remarkable, forging a sense of community that lingered well after the ashes cooled. One late afternoon, Elijah visited Danielle at her new place. They sat on the small patio, sipping lemonade. She gazed at the photo of her parents in her hand. "I feel lighter," Danielle said softly, as if letting that house go lifted a burden she carried too long. "For so many years, I clung to memories, ignoring how the mold inside and outside was suffocating me." Elijah nodded. "Sometimes we have to lose something to gain ourselves again." They shared a moment of tranquil silence, comforted by the understanding that, amidst tragedy, a new beginning had emerged. Danielle's heartbreak had ignited a series of events that led her to safety, new friendships, and liberation from the haunting memories of a home that had become uninhabitable. Thus concluded a peculiar ordeal that left the residents of Hazelwood Street in awe. The day firefighters arrived but chose not to extinguish a fire, the day a lonely woman's neglected property was consumed by flames, and the day compassion opened doors to her future. For Danielle, it was a revelation. Ultimately, the destruction of her house became a catalyst for her renewal, something no one could have anticipated when they first witnessed the flickers of flame. This story serves as a reminder that sometimes we must confront the complete collapse of what once defined us to rediscover hope. By releasing the structures and memories that no longer serve us, we create space for new beginnings. While the process can be painful, akin to watching a beloved home burn, unexpected freedom can rise from the ashes. Support from others and a willingness to embrace change ensure that we do not have to navigate this journey alone. In the end, finding the courage to start anew can lead not only to healing, but also to a life enriched with peace and connection.